bunch of tears and pain and hurt and all kinds of things to get to that point. But I think in today's society, it's a little more accepting, but we still have a long way to go. There are areas that are still not as open to women being heads of departments or running a corporation or being over organizations that are not women organizations. So I think we've come a long way, but I think we have a lot to do, and more people to convince that we're just as good as anybody if we apply ourselves. For most women, and I know for myself, I couldn't be just good. I had to be better. I had to get more education. I had to get more training. I had to do everything to get to the position that I am, but I didn't get it from my department. I got it because I did it for myself, because I intended to be the best that I could be. And I think that's what we all have to do when we are pursuing any kind of career or being part of a mixed organization or a corporation, anything. We've got to be better. And it's left up to us to do what we need to do to make sure that we not only meet those qualifications, but we're a little bit better.
Absolutely. So that's a challenge.
It's a challenge.
So y'all have to bear with me. I kind of jumped the shark here. I'm just so excited to be with these women. I just want to dive into questions and have you answer them. But we are to have opening remarks. So Ellen, let's start with you. And I believe you have 5 minutes for an opening remark, and I'll try and time you. So take it away.
Okay, it should be on.
Go to the mic.
Oh, that's much better.
I don't know.
So if you press this little button, and when the green comes on, it's on.
Yeah, but see, I pressed it. The green is here.
Can you hear? Can you hear?
No.
Okay, my
She's
voice
got-
isn't as loud as they are,
Okay.
so I will use this. Those of you who know me, and I know there are a lot of people in the room who do, would be very surprised to find out that I was very shy until I went to college. My friends in Baltimore, wow, that makes me shy. My friends in Baltimore are surprised at how much I've grown since I was there. And it's because of a number of factors that have happened in my life. The most dramatic thing was going to India in 1982. I was 41 years old. I had never been any place. And unbelievably, my first trip was to go find a bride for somebody who worked for us. That led to a book that just came out about a year ago called Finding a Bride and Other Adventures of a Jewish Mother in India. And that changed my life because it opened my eyes to all sorts of things. I was 41. I had never been out of the country before. This was a young man who was our controller, worked for us. And he had no family here, so we became his family. Eventually, I got involved in international things through the Greater Houston Partnership. And I was on the Middle East Committee, and actually later chaired the Middle East Committee. But I was also on a couple other committees, including the Asian and the India Task Force. At one point, everyone was told, if you're a member, you can only be on one committee. So I went to them and I said, I'm really confused. I don't know which committee to be on. And they said, oh, you can be on as many as you want. You know, you're a worker, which is one of the secrets that I would give to everybody. You know, once you get on a committee, do something. And they said, you're a worker, do you want to be on the African committee too? So that was how I started. But in 1993, we had a delegation that came from Abu Dhabi. We became very good friends. As a matter of fact, we called each other cousin, though my maiden name was Israel. Or because said in this very elaborate council chamber, there are people who work very hard to make this happen. I'd like Ellen Goldberg to stand up. I stood up, and everyone applauded. And that night I found out that women usually weren't in there. As a matter of fact, it was the first time our ambassador, who was a woman, was in there. Of course, things have changed since then, you know, for the good. But that night I was told I was the first woman ever given an ovation in council chambers. And I said, I don't know if I was the first woman, but I'll bet I was the first Jewish woman.
Ellen, thank you so much. We're going to give it over
Yes,
to Dorothy
okay.
for her 5 minutes. And she's going to tell us where she bought that beautiful jacket, because I like it.
Oh, I'd love to, but it's wonderful to be here. I love coming here. It always makes me feel enthused and cared for. And I think that is one of the things that I've learned over these years. The Rose has been around for 30 years. And you know what I know about women and what it's taken to be in this environment is that we're all very much the same. We care about our families, we care about the community, we want to be connected. But when it comes to having something like breast cancer, then many, many times things are different, and it all depends on whether you have insurance or whether you don't, or whether your community will allow you to have that type of disease or not, or whether you have support systems or not. So, you know, I think my journey into this was very, very organic. You know, I was in corporate America, had no intention to be in a nonprofit, kind of got thrown into it, and now after 30 years, I can't imagine being in anything else.
We can't imagine you doing anything. You save lives.
Oh, thank you, thank you. But you know, now we have 119 women that work for me, and 1 man. And I'm
One
always
man's here.
saying, yes, no, he's
He's
my
a board
board,
member,
he's a
yeah.
board member. But you know, and as many stories as I could tell you about the physician communities and men and women, you have to have the guys. You have to have the guys.
Yes.
You know, they're the ones that kind of hold us up when we're ready to go crazy. And certainly in our world, in my nonprofit world, it has been so many times that our board members, like Tom, have kept us going and reminded us what we are doing.
Thank you. Dr. Flores is going to speak next.
I actually had prepared a little presentation, a little more formal on the importance of education and workforce and transitions, but I think I'll just do a little bit of personal narrative. A lot of you may not know, but at 17 I was a pregnant mom married, and I had 3 children by the time I was 23. And when I was 18, my husband wasn't from this country, and he was 15 years older, and he took me to Burma. So that was back in the 80s, and I don't know if you're familiar with what was happening in Burma, now Myanmar, but it was a closed country. There was rioting in the streets, and we got there, and I had my young daughter. I was 18, and that's when Aung San Suu Kyi was marching with the monks, and we got out. 2 days later, they fired on the monks in the streets. We barely got out of the country, and I came back with this very different perspective about life in the world, and it profoundly influenced me. And I was a very abusive marriage. I didn't get out till I was 30, and then I started to figure out who I was, my identity as a person, as a woman. But I carried this experience through everything else that I did. When I was teaching, I worked with immigrant children. My research really started to gravitate towards all vulnerable populations, but I always had that nagging voice in my head, you'll never be anything, no one will ever want you. Coming out of this marriage that had really had a profound, so there was a very wonderful, incredible, moving thing that happened from this relationship, was this experience in Burma, which transformed how I see the world, and then also there was a lot of burden and pain that, and so I was trying to figure out who I was, my identity. One thing I think to learn from that lesson is never let somebody else tell you you have no worth.
Yes.
Because I didn't know what I liked. I didn't think I would ever be anything. He said, you will never hold down a job. No one will ever take you and your 3 children if you leave me. And, I did remarry. And I married well. And so my husband and I, it took 23 years of continual enrollment in college to get to a PhD, to the end of that journey. I started out riding a commuter bus to the local high school to take night classes when I was still in that abusive marriage with babies all around me. And I ended up having 2 more children, and my husband and I have 7 children together. But I stayed focused on, that original experience of how was I so lucky to be born in a place where I had opportunity. Never let opportunities pass you by, and never let a day go by when you're not in service to other people. And so that's been what's driven my work.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Kamile? Dr. Kamile, go ahead, and you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. You're probably wondering what is Commission of Women for Monitoring, but it's very new. Last year, in 2015 fall, Hatide Gönül, Vice President of Development City, approached us, me and